I just had the most insanely vivid, though, I guess not insane, well, I don't think that's the right word, or the right way to use that word, but I had the most insane dream. So vivid. One of those dreams where if you tell the person you're talking to or whoever's involved that you're dreaming, they'll freak you out because it's really just your subconscious. It's just your subconscious the entire time. But you tell it you're dreaming, then it thinks you're expecting something freaky to happen, so it makes something freaky happen because it's what you're expecting, or that's what it thinks you're expecting. Which it's right. So yeah, but anyways, it was extremely vivid. Like I thought I wasn't dreaming. I thought I was actually having like a moment of like schizophrenia or like realizing that I'm part of like a four-person whole. But I don't know. Or was it five? I don't know. I think it was four though. Oh my god, that was freaky. Okay. Holy shit. Okay. I felt like I've been there before though. Okay, so it starts with me at like a work team night thing. It was basically just this thing that we had at like the old fundraising job I had, where like our boss, she would throw like team nights, quote unquote, right? And it's basically just a way to like incentivize people to stay because oh yay pizza, oh yay bowling, something on a Thursday, on a Thursday after work, basically something, you know. Um, yeah, but I left for a bit, came back to the job, and then that was gone, as well as the base pay, being reduced heavily. But anyway, that's besides the point. Right? So, and in the dream, I'm in like this environment, but we're at like some kind of like house, but the bathrooms are weird. They're like like group bathrooms, like think of like gym bathrooms, right? And I'm in there, and it's also like a so you have like this like giant living room setting, right? But there's also like a gigantic like back wall, like extremely big, and there's like railings along the back wall, and we're basically waiting for this girl who went. I don't know if she went on like a killing spree or like it was like something that like put everyone in danger basically. So we're basically waiting and listening to like the radio or listening to like comms or something where like we're basically waiting for them to tell us like hey they captured her or something, but the entire time I'm basically hanging on the railing just waiting for them to tell us like hey the coast is clear or whatever the fuck they're gonna tell us, right? Basically that they captured the girl. But I also have a sign up that I'm like holding that shows the girl's name, even though I don't need it because the people who are looking for her aren't gonna just walk into this room and look at the sign and they're like, oh, this person we have to find because they already know who they have to find, right? So eventually the sign goes away after me thinking in my head and like saying out loud, why the fuck am I holding the sign, right? Um, and then basically that happens, and then at some point I go to the restroom and I'm with someone else, but before we get to the restroom, there's like this there's this other room that's like cluttered with a bunch of shit, but there's also snacks and there's like a desk that's for like it's almost like a secretary desk, but it's like tucked away in a corner almost, but next to the secretary desk. So okay, so there's the desk, And then to the left of it, there's just a pile of snacks and cookies and stuff. And then it gets the pile grows bigger because one of the coworkers brings like a bunch of stuff. And I remember in the dream telling someone, yeah, some people just enjoy giving things to their coworkers because they really enjoy the environment or something like that. I think that's probably like almost exactly what I said actually. And then to the right, it's the clutter, and then you have like the hallway that's kind of like lit a little bit. Not lit as in like I don't like the slang party term, but lit as in like you can see like a bit of light from the hallway because of the big room that everyone's in, right? Oh my god. And my eyes hurt so much. Oh my god, that freaked me the fuck out, dude. I'm gonna tell you why it freaked me out. But yeah, so that and then I remember some point I go in the restroom. I don't remember using the restroom or anything, but I remember now we're leaving and I think there's some like I know they're either they're either like just above being of age or just under being of age. But basically, before we go into the restroom, we end up watching like TikToks or something. And then I remember I did a few of them because in the moment I was just completely relaxed. So then I thought, we're gonna make cringy TikToks. Cool. And then I did it, and then instantly when we finished them, I backtracked mentally and then thought, okay, no, you have to delete those. They have to go away now because I don't like them. Um, and then we basically ended up scrolling through their TikToks for what felt like it didn't feel very long, but it was one of those moments where it's like doom scrolling, right? You you feel like you're only taking like a few minutes or like 10 minutes at most, but it ends up being hours, right? Basically that feeling. So we end up scrolling through their TikToks, and then we're trying to find the ones that I did, and I see them every now and then, but I try tapping them and it brings me somewhere else. But we end up scrolling through their TikToks, and there's one that I saw that I want them to send me. And it was basically like three giants running around like this room, and then like a a bunch of little people, like little like think of like toy figure people that size. Those people running behind them, and the three giants are um are just you hear like almost like how do I put it, frolicking in the woods or frolicking in the meadow type music with them like chatting about like nonsense, literally literal nonsense. Um and they're like frolicking around this giant room, and then it kind of zooms out and it goes to the perspective of it goes to the perspective of the little people that are like the entire goal of what they're all doing is the little people are trying to escape the big people, and the big people are just frolicking, having fun until they find little people that they're gonna eat, right? But it zooms out and it's out from the perspective of the little people, and it's all in like a third person camera angle. But they are almost halfway around the room, but directly behind them, basically, because they're all running in a circle. But once it switches to their perspective, the giants are now in a position where they're almost looking at the little people, and eventually they do look at them. And right when that happens, they punt one of the little people, like in the group, all of them collectively punt one of the little people out to basically be a sacrifice to the giants, so they can keep all going. So they what the fuck? So they can keep all what the fuck? So they can all keep going, pretty much. And then it shifts to this is the freakiest part about the whole thing. Well, not this part, but in the giant room with like all the coworkers and everything, coworkers, I see people that I know in real life, well, somewhat faintly, but they look slightly different. Like the bigger person I'm thinking of, she looks slimmer. Um, and then like there's other people that I remember, right? But there's like this table slash bench, and there's a TV next to it. And there's someone sitting on the TV slash bench that's right in front of the TV. Um, so like okay, think of bleachers, right? And think of like the end corner of bleachers. Now picture those seats, instead of being seats, they're tables, and then at the end of it, basically around that corner of that bench, there's another table attached to it, and then in front of that table is a TV. But now you're not outside; you're in a gym, but it's like a gigantic gym, you know. Like basically that's the giant room we're in, if that makes sense. But but yeah, so I'm in there, and then I can't even tell you what's happening in there because it's all fading right now as I'm speaking. But the freaky part is, I remember, I could see their faces, or I could see their faces vividly. Like, I can't tell you how vivid this was. But there was one head with with like a short kind of like bob haircut, and then they had like a purple silhouette, and another one had a green one, another one had a yellow silhouette. Um, the yellow silhouette was in the middle. They were all like just their heads, pretty much. And the green one, I think they were looking directly at me, but I don't remember. And they had like a weirdly warped face, and the yellow silhouette was in the middle. The green silhouette was on the, for me looking at them, they were on the left. But I'm basically looking at them from the bottom. Um, like if you're looking up at someone, I'm basically looking up at them from that angle, pretty much. But not directly under them, kind of like in front of them and under them, pretty much. Um, but they literally tell me how like they're gonna fuck me up, and how I have to go away in the dark or something like that. But I literally feel my like before that, I had like this, like there was a part of the dream where there was like this being. It was almost like a giant insect in a weird way. It was almost like a giant insect, and it was in like this forest that was, it was dim, but there was like light in to the right of it. Well, to the right of me, to the left of it, like far in the distance, that was lighting up the forest. But other than that light, it was completely like grayish dim, if that makes sense. Um, almost like comic shading. How it's like, oh, it's just black and white, but the white only comes from that light source, pretty much. But it's so bright that it lights up the forest a good bit. But that's the only light source, if that makes sense. So it's essentially fighting with itself, and it's, oh no. Okay. So as I'm recalling this, I'm like remembering more and more of it. Um, but it's fighting with itself, and I can tell you why in a bit. But it's fighting with itself, and it almost like implodes slash explodes in a way, not in like a big extravagant way where it's like there's like sparkles and particles and shit, but it almost like explodes, what the fuck, explodes, or like, I guess I don't know, like self implodes, I guess, but it pretty much goes from one being to two, and it literally has like its body separated, and it's almost like a stick, like its entire, like all its limbs are like sticks, pretty much, and it looks at itself, starts fighting with itself. And then it eventually starts fighting so hard that it goes into one being again, and then it fights again. And this entire time, I'm watching the entire thing happen. I'm watching the entire thing happen, you know, and I'm expecting, okay, cool. Well, now you're one being, cool. Now we can both move on. But it does it again. It fights, and it becomes three beings because it fights with itself, and then they fight all They all fight each other. They become one being again, and then there's a third time they fight again, and they become four beings. But then they see me, and then they fight each other while they're coming towards me, and then I eventually, like, I don't die per se, but that's when like the fucked up three people parts come in. They tell me like they're gonna fuck me up and everything, right? So before the stick being happened, I basically smoked. I smoked. Um, the only way I can put it is like I smoked British weed from an elephant, if that makes sense. But it was like a disgusting elephant where it shoved its trunk up its ass and then smoked, or it would have done that basically. And then me realizing, okay, this is this kind of elephant. I basically took the first hit that was out of this weird fucking thing. It was like a white. It was a giant, or not giant, but it was a white plastic thing with like a dim light on it that looked. I know it's not the actual British flag, but in my mind, in that moment, it was the British flag, but in reality, it was just like a, a red circle with a blue background, and outside of that red circle, but still in the blue background, there's like a red ring around that red circle with a blue background. Um, and oh my god, my fucking eyes hurt, dude. When I close my eyes, I can see the moments from this. Oh my goodness. Oh, it freaked me the fuck out. I thought I was gonna die. I thought I was gonna fucking die, dude. Holy shit. But yeah, so I take the hit, and then I'm thinking, no, after I take the hit, I'm basically, I guess, stalling for time, but I'm pretty much talking to the elephant dude in like this stupid Rastafarian or Jamaican accent. And then eventually I give it to them, and then that's when that's when they take a hit and they spaz the fuck out. It's basically just this giant, like, disgustingly grayish brown elephant with a long trunk and like a horse body, and then it that's when the whole, like, that's when it turns into like the big eyed stick bug giant bug thing in the forest. Um, like it's basically in the forest as a giant elephant looking thing, and then it turned into the the stick bug thing, right? So back to the original freak out part with like the three people, right? They tell me they're gonna fuck up, and they tell me that, or they're gonna fuck me up, and they tell me out like it's no longer my time in the sun. Um, and I think this is also my subconscious taking from memory, taking from my memory like things that I've heard about like schizophrenia and people that have had experiences like this, because this doesn't feel like me. This feels like things I've heard, you know? Then again, it could just be one and the same, really. We're all just experiences and memories and how we interpret them. Anyways, yeah. But, told you it's gonna fuck me up and everything, and how it's my okay. So when the four entities are fighting each other and they all like come towards me, that's when it happens, and my eyes like increasingly they they kind of feel like they're being forced shut. I think I hear like planes outside. They're either planes outside, or like there's like cars that are going at like weird speeds, and you hear like the, I guess, like a radiant noise from them. I don't know. But but yeah. So fuck, what was I saying? They come at me and then basically tell me how like it's no longer my time in the light and how they're gonna take over now and they're gonna fuck me up because of it. Um, and I can I can see them like not they're not in a way they're not literally pulling me back, but they are. You can tell they're or I can tell that they're pulling me back. Um, not literally, but almost like like uh like tele telekinetically. There we go. Fuck. Holy shit. Telekinesis. They're basically pulling me back with telekinesis, pretty much, and forcing me back behind them, like in our head, pretty much, and um, and like I can see them pretty much taking over the body, and then it instantly switches to me, pretty much in the sleeping position I'm in, but I am now like I can see a window in like the corner of the room, and then I get up, and mind you, all the things that are gonna happen, I had like in the vision, or not in the, but in the dream, in in the dream, I had like I supposedly had visions of these things happening before they did, so I knew what was about to happen. But I get up and I have like a mini rifle next to me, and I go to the window, nothing's there, and then I go over to the door and I see like footsteps behind it. Well, I see like shadows behind it, and there's lights flashing in from the top of it because there's like a three sectioned window at the top of the door, and then there's like section um glass frame. There's sectioned window frames through the door, like where the door should be solid, just like sectioned glass frames, but you can't see through it in a weird way. Um, yeah, like they're completely glass frames, but you can't see through them, if that makes sense. Um, and so like so I know that someone's coming through. So I have fuck was it? I have the rifle, but I also have some other weapon, and I throw the other weapon down, and I have the rifle. I turn like the I forget what it's called, but I turn like the notch to where it's I don't know if I put it in burst or I put it in something else, but I turn that notch to where it's basically pointing up, where like I know like okay if I fire this it's gonna work. It's not gonna it's not gonna not stall. What the fuck? It's not gonna jam or anything. At least hopefully not, because I haven't fired it yet, and I can't test fire it without revealing my position. So yeah, and then I also turn off the safety, and I wait for the door to open. It opens slowly, and the guy like tries to walk in, and I point my weapon at him, and he points his pistol at me, and then we kind of like walk out into like a mini hallway, sort of, kind of, and we're basically talking to each other while working against each other's strength and trying to get one weapon in front of each other's face so we can fire. And every time I try to do it with my rifle, I get it in their face, but it doesn't fire. And then I'm basically looking at their pistol the entire time while trying to get my rifle in their face or just in front of their body in general, so I can fire. And the same thing happens with them, but I I managed to keep my face out of the nozzle, or out, yeah, not the nozzle. What the fuck? Out of the way of the barrel, of their weapon. And yeah, but I think but at the last moment, as I'm about to fire, because I feel like it's about to go off, then I wake up, pretty much, and that's it. But I thought it was real, and I thought I just had to accept my fate. Like, damn, I have schizophrenia, and there's three other people inside of me, and I no longer have control. Meaning, I'm gonna possibly do fucked up things to people, and I don't want that to be my life. I did not want that to be my life at all. You know. But I think that comes from things I've heard of schizophrenia and um, people explaining like being taken over, as well as a fear of having schizophrenia and not being in control of my actions, pretty much. I hope this made sense. It probably didn't make sense, but I just needed to get this out because I didn't want to forget this. So hopefully, well, I don't know, future me, you might not listen to this because I hate the sound of her voice. So I don't know. And again, you can probably just get the transcript of it or have someone else listen to it. Someone else listen to it, and then they tell you what happened, or they kind of like go through it word for word, relay it back to you, and then you can correct them on things that they can't quite hear properly because you sound weird or you're mumbling or something. But that's it. Thank you for listening. I wonder if that's kind of just me now telling my future self thank you for listening. I don't know. Then again, we know it's not. We know he's not going to listen. He's not going to give a shit. Maybe he does eventually evolve out of that, and then does listen. But that's it. Bye bye.